A Mother's Promise, a tale of found family. The unlikeliest encounter. Sometimes, love is born in the most unexpected of moments. A desperate mother, a lost man, and a baby who would change everything. Welcome to a story that will move you. Leave a comment below, telling us where you're watching from, and become part of this special moment. It was a Tuesday morning when it all began at the elegant Grandview Hotel in London. The first rays of sun streamed through the large windows of the lobby, creating golden reflections on the polished marble. The movement was still discreet, just a few employees starting their morning shifts. Maria Sanchez, only 24 years old, pushed her cleaning cart down the silent corridors of the 8th floor. Her brown hair was pulled back in a simple bun, and her impeccable uniform couldn't hide the tiredness in her eyes. Another sleepless night, another day of struggle. But Maria carried a secret in the lower compartment of her cleaning cart. Hidden among clean towels, her 8-month-old son, Gabriel, was sleeping soundly. Every few steps, she would stop to check on him, whispering words of affection. "Shh, my love. Just a few more hours," she would murmur, adjusting the towels that hid him. Upon reaching the door of the presidential suite, room 801, Maria knocked gently. It was always like this. 3 soft taps, a pause. Then she would announce her presence. "Housekeeping!" Silence. She waited a few seconds before using her master key. The suite was stunning. A panoramic view of the city, Italian designer furniture, and modern works of art adorned the walls. Maria had cleaned this room many times, but she was still impressed by such luxury. "Hello, is anyone here?" she called cautiously, leaving the cart near the entrance. Receiving no answer, she began her work. Her movements were precise and efficient, the result of 2 years of working at the hotel. She collected used towels and organized the room, always attentive to every detail. It was then that Gabriel woke up. A soft cry made Maria run desperately to the cart. "No, no, no, please, baby," she sighed, picking him up with infinite gentleness. She rocked him softly against her chest, humming a lullaby her own mother used to sing. "Sleep, sleep, my boy. Mommy's here." James Miller had spent another sleepless night. At 30, this tall, well-dressed man carried in his eyes the weight of something that kept him from sleeping peacefully. When he left the bedroom and headed toward the living room, his messy hair and red eyes revealed his exhaustion. He stopped suddenly when he saw Maria with the baby in her arms. "What?" he murmured, more confused than annoyed. Maria turned, terror stamped on her pale face. Gabriel was still crying softly in her arms. I can explain, sir," she stammered, her voice trembling. "You brought a child to work?" James asked, but there was something in his tone that didn't sound like an accusation. "Please, sir, I had nowhere to leave him." The words came out rushed and desperate. "The babysitter canceled at the last minute, and I couldn't miss work. It's just for today, I promise that." James approached slowly, and Maria noticed something strange in his expression. It wasn't anger or disapproval. It was curiosity, melancholy. Can I see him?" James asked, surprising himself with his own request. Maria hesitated. That man was a complete stranger, a rich guest who could report her and destroy her life with a simple call to management. But something in his voice reassured her. With infinite care, she held out Gabriel. What happened next would change everything. James took the baby with surprising gentleness, as if it were something natural, instinctive. Gabriel stopped crying almost instantly, looking curiously at that unknown face. Then something extraordinary happened. The baby smiled and reached out a tiny hand to touch James's face. Tears began to form in the businessman's eyes. "Hi, little one," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. Maria watched, intrigued and touched. James rocked Gabriel with confident, natural movements, as if he knew exactly what to do. The baby laughed, completely at ease in the stranger's arms. "You are perfect. Absolutely perfect," James murmured, more to himself than to anyone else. "Do you have children, sir?" Maria dared to ask. Seeing the tears in his eyes, James looked at her, and Maria saw a deep pain in those brown eyes. "No, I never had the chance." He reluctantly returned Gabriel, as if every second were precious. "What's his name?" "Gabriel. Gabriel Sanchez." "Gabriel," James repeated the name softly, savoring each syllable. A strong name. What came next surprised Maria even more. Instead of threatening to report her, James made an unexpected request. You couldn't tell anyone that he was here, could you?" Maria blinked in confusion. "That's what I was going to ask you, sir." James smiled for the first time since she entered the room. "Do you have other rooms to clean today?" "Yes, sir. I have 6 more suites to clean." "And he stays in the cart the whole time?" Maria lowered her eyes, embarrassed. "He usually sleeps. He's a very calm baby, I swear. This has never happened before." "Can I ask you a question? Why is there no one to take care of him?" The question touched an still open wound. Maria held Gabriel tightly against her chest and whispered, It's complicated, sir." James realized he had crossed a line. "You don't have to explain. He stopped as if he wanted to say something important, but changed his mind. "Finish your work, and thank you." "Thank you for what?" "For letting me meet him." Maria finished cleaning the suite in silence, but she felt James's presence even when he disappeared into the bedroom. There was something about that man that moved her, a deep sadness that she recognized in herself. When she arranged Gabriel back in the cart, she whispered, "What a strange man, my son, but strange in a good way." Gabriel babbled as if in agreement. After Maria left, James leaned against the wall, listening to the footsteps recede down the hall, wiped the tears from his face, and picked up the phone. "Hi, it's James. Cancel all my meetings this morning." After a pause, he continued, "No, I'm not sick. I need some time." He hung up and went to the window, watching the city move below. The name echoed in his mind. Gabriel. Meanwhile, in the hallway, Maria continued her work when a fellow maid, Carla Evans, intercepted her with curiosity in her eyes. "Maria, you took a long time in 801 today." "Normal. It was a big suite," Maria replied, trying to sound casual. And that guest? What's he like?" "What do you mean?" "Well, he's been here for a week, and no one has really talked to him. They say he's very reserved. Some employees think he's on the run from something." Maria forced a smile. "I just cleaned the room, Carla. I didn't talk to him." "All right, but be careful. Rich and mysterious men usually have dangerous secrets." Carla's words echoed in Maria's mind as she continued pushing her cart down the corridors. Gabriel slept peacefully, oblivious to the whirlwind of feelings that the unexpected encounter had awakened in 2 wounded souls. Neither of them knew that that Tuesday morning would mark the beginning of something that would change their lives forever. James couldn't focus on anything for the rest of the morning. Sitting in the suite's leather armchair, he stared at the spot where Maria had held Gabriel just hours earlier. The feeling of the little fingers touching his face was still vivid in his memory. It was almost 2 in the afternoon when he made a decision. He picked up the hotel's internal phone. "Reception, good afternoon. How can I help you, Mr. Miller?" "I need to speak to an employee. A maid named Maria." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "May I ask the reason, sir?" James hesitated. How to explain? She forgot something in my room." "I see. I'll check. Maria Sanchez works the morning shift. so she's probably already left. Can I have another maid retrieve what she forgot? No. The answer came out firmer than James intended. I need to speak specifically with her. When does she return tomorrow? At 7 in the morning, sir. James hung up, frustrated. Tomorrow seemed like an eternity. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Maria walked through the narrow streets of her neighborhood with Gabriel in her arms. The contrast was stark. From the hotel's luxurious suites to the simple houses and potholed streets where she lived. She lived in a small one-bedroom apartment on the second floor of an old building. As she went up the stairs, she met her neighbor, Mrs. Evelyn, a 68-year-old lady who occasionally looked after Gabriel. "Hi, my dear. How was work today?" Maria forced a smile. "Normal, Mrs. Evelyn. Thanks for offering to watch Gabriel this morning. The babysitter canceled at the last minute." "Oh, honey, but you seem worried. Did something happen?" Maria shook her head. But Mrs. Evelyn had known that girl for 2 years. There was something different in her eyes. "Be careful, Maria. You're a hard-working and honest girl. But the world out there is sometimes not fair to people like us." Went inside her apartment, Maria put Gabriel in the makeshift crib she had set up in the living room. The baby babbled happily, playing with a colorful rattle she had bought on sale. "You liked that man today, didn't you?" she whispered to her son. "I saw how you smiled at him." Gabriel laughed as if he understood, and Maria's heart ached. In 8 months of life, her son had rarely interacted with male figures. The father? Well, the father was a subject she preferred not to revisit. The next morning, Maria arrived at the hotel 15 minutes early. She had slept poorly, dreaming of brown eyes and gentle hands holding her baby. Gabriel was particularly restless, as if he also felt his mother's tension. "Calm down, my love. Today you're going to be quiet, okay?" she murmured as she settled him into the cart. Carla intercepted her in the staff locker room. "Maria, did you hear the gossip? The guest in 801 asked for you yesterday afternoon, specifically for you." Maria's blood ran cold. "What?" "Patricia from reception told me. He called, saying you had forgotten something in his room. Isn't that strange? Did you forget anything there?" "No, not that I remember." Carla leaned in, lowering her voice. "Maria, this man is very strange. No one knows exactly what he does. He always pays in cash, receives no visitors. And now he's asking for you. Be careful." Maria's stomach churned. Had James changed his mind? Maybe he now wanted to report her for bringing Gabriel. With a racing heart, she went to the 8th floor. Upon reaching the door of Suite 801, her hands trembled slightly. She knocked on the door with less firmness than usual. "Housekeeping." "Come in." James's voice came immediately, as if he had been waiting on the other side of the door. Maria entered, pushing the cart. James was standing in the living room, dressed in a gray dress shirt and dark pants. He seemed to have slept better than the day before, but there was an anxiety in his eyes. "Good morning," he said, and Maria noticed how his voice sounded different, softer, almost hesitant. "Good morning, sir. I heard I forgot something here yesterday." James approached the cart. "Actually, I lied." Maria's heart raced. "What?" "I wanted to see him again. See Gabriel." The words came out of James with an honesty that surprised him. He had rehearsed several excuses, several ways to justify that strange request. But in Maria's presence, only the truth seemed appropriate. Maria stared at him, trying to decipher his intentions. "Why?" "I don't know how to explain it well. Yesterday when I held him..." James stopped, running a hand through his hair. "It's been a long time since I felt a connection with someone." Gabriel chose that moment to let out a small cry from the cart. Maria quickly bent down to pick him up, but James held out his hands. "May I?" Maria hesitated only a second before handing over the baby. Once again, Gabriel calmed down instantly in James's arms, looking at him with infinite curiosity. "You're a champion," James whispered, and Gabriel laughed. That delicious baby laugh that made both adults' hearts ache. "He likes you," Maria observed, still suspicious, but clearly touched by the scene. "And I like him." James looked at Maria. "Can I ask you a personal question?" Maria tensed. "It depends on the question." "His father, where is he?" Maria's face immediately closed. "There is no father in our story. He abandoned us when he found out about the pregnancy." The words came out bitter, laden with a pain that Maria rarely allowed to surface. "He said he wasn't ready, that we were too young, that he had plans." James realized he had touched an open wound. "Maria, I'm so sorry. That's why I work hiding Gabriel. I don't have family here. I don't have money for a good daycare. I do what I can." Gabriel babbled softly in James's arms, oblivious to the heavy conversation of the adults. James rocked him gently, and Maria saw how natural he looked in that role. "Have you ever taken care of children before?" she asked. James was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was heavy with emotion. "I did once." Before Maria could ask more, footsteps approached in the hallway, voices of employees. Maria quickly took Gabriel back. "I need to work," she said, settling the baby in the cart. "Maria?" James called her when she had already started to organize her cleaning supplies. "Yes?" "Tomorrow? Could you bring him again?" The question was so vulnerable, so full of hope, that Maria felt something stir in her chest. "I bring Gabriel every day, sir. I have no choice." "James?" "What?" "My name is James, not sir." Maria nodded slowly. "James?" He smiled, and Maria realized how that smile completely transformed his face. For a moment, she forgot she was in the middle of a luxurious hotel, wearing her maid uniform, with a baby hidden in her cleaning cart. For a moment, they were just two people connected by something inexplicable. "Until tomorrow, then," James said. "Until tomorrow." When Maria left the suite, James stood in the same spot for several minutes. For the first time in years, he had something to look forward to the next day. In the hallway, Maria pushed the cart with slower movements than usual. The conversation with James had moved her in a way she couldn't explain. There was something about that man, a hidden pain she recognized, a genuine kindness that both scared and attracted her. Gabriel slept peacefully, a small smile on his face, as if he also held fond memories of those safe arms that had rocked him. Maria didn't realize that Carla had witnessed her leaving Suite 801, nor did she see the calculating look the colleague gave her. The hotel gossip mill was already beginning to turn. The following days established a quiet routine between Maria and James. Every morning, she would arrive at Suite 801 around 7:30. Every morning, he would wait for her in the living room, already dressed and clearly anxious. And every morning, Gabriel would wake up in James's arms as if it were the most natural place in the world. It was the 5th consecutive morning when Carla decided to act. Maria had just entered the suite when she heard hurried footsteps in the hallway. Instinctively, she picked Gabriel up from the cart even before James could ask. "Someone's coming," she whispered. James frowned. "I'm not expecting anyone." 3 firm knocks on the door. Maria paled. It wasn't the gentle knock of a maid. "Mr. Miller, I'm Mr. Henderson, the hotel manager. May we talk?" Maria felt the world fall apart. Gabriel was in her arms. There was no way to hide him now. James saw the panic in her eyes, and, in a decision that surprised him, pointed to the bedroom. "Go! Take him to the room now, but trust me." Maria ran to the bedroom, closing the door carefully. From the other side, she heard James open the main door. "Mr. Henderson, how can I help you?" Mr. Henderson was a middle-aged man, always impeccable, who ran the hotel with an iron fist. He entered the suite, examining every detail. "Mr. Miller, we've received some reports of inappropriate behavior in your suite. Employees reported strange noises, prolonged conversations with the cleaning staff." James maintained a neutral expression. "I don't understand the concern. I have always been cordial with the employees." Of course. But understand our position. The Grandview Hotel values the discretion and tranquility of its guests. Any situation that could compromise that. Mr. Henderson, I have been a guest in this suite for almost 2 weeks. I pay a daily rate that, I imagine, is not insignificant to the hotel. If there is a specific complaint about my behavior, I would like to know." In the bedroom, Maria held Gabriel against her chest, trying to keep both of them silent. The baby, as if feeling the tension, remained quiet, just looking at his mother's worried face. "There are no complaints, Mr. Miller. Just be careful. Some employees may try to take advantage of the generosity of guests like you." James felt his anger rise, but he controlled himself. "I understand your concern, but I can assure you that I am not easily manipulated." After a few tense minutes, Henderson finally left, not before casting an investigative look around the suite. When the door closed, James sighed heavily before knocking gently on the bedroom door. "Maria, you can come out." She emerged, pale, with Gabriel still in her arms. He knows. He suspects something, but he's not sure. James approached. "Someone is talking about us." Maria lowered her eyes. "Carla? It has to be Carla. She's been asking questions, watching." "Maria," James gently touched her arm. "I need to tell you something." There was something in his voice that made Maria look up. "About why Gabrielle affects me so much." James moved away, walking to the window. For a long moment he was silent, watching the city below. 3 years ago I had a best friend, Tom. We grew up together. We were like brothers. His voice got lower. He got married young, had a son, a boy named Peter. Maria noticed that James was struggling with every word. Peter was 2 years old when it happened. Tom and his wife went out to dinner. They asked me to stay with him. It was something normal. I always looked after Peter when they needed it. I was working on my laptop, answering emails. Peter was playing in the living room quietly. James stopped, his voice choked. When I realized it, he had opened the balcony door. The apartment was on the 10th floor. Maria's heart ached. She instinctively held Gabriel against her chest. I got there in time to hold him, Maria. For 1 second I held his little hand, but he was too small, and I couldn't pull him back. He slipped. The silence that followed was heavy and painful. Maria didn't know what to say. Tom and his wife never forgave me, and I never forgave myself. I had promised to protect that boy, and I failed. James wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. When I first saw Gabriel, when I held him, it was as if Peter was giving me a second chance, as if I could protect a child again. Do it right this time. Maria approached slowly. James, that's why I haven't slept right for 3 years. That's why I've been in this hotel for 2 weeks, not knowing what to do with my life. That's why I canceled all business, all commitments. He looked at her. Until you appeared with Gabrielle. Maria felt tears in her own eyes. She finally understood the pain in those brown eyes. The way he held Gabrielle, with such reverence. You weren't to blame for what happened to Peter, she said softly. I was responsible. Accidents happen, James. Children. I promised to protect him. Gabrielle began to cry, scared by the altered tone. James immediately composed himself. "Sorry, little one, sorry." He held out his arms, and Maria handed over the baby without hesitation. Gabriel calmed down instantly in James's arms, who rocked him with gentle movements. "You're amazing with him," Maria observed. "He reminds me that I can still be useful to someone." Maria watched him rocking her son, seeing how safe Gabriel felt there. A strange sensation grew in her chest, a mixture of gratitude, tenderness, and something deeper that she didn't yet know how to name. "James?" "Yes?" "Why are you telling me this?" He looked at her over Gabriel's head. "Because you deserve to know why a stranger wants to spend time with your son, and why—" He hesitated. "Because it's been a long time since I've had someone to really talk to." Maria's heart raced. There was an intimacy in that moment that scared and attracted her simultaneously. "Me neither," she admitted softly. "Me neither what?" "I haven't had someone to really talk to for a long time." Their eyes met over Gabriel's head, and for a moment the world outside seemed not to exist. There was no luxury hotel. There were no social differences. There were no risks or complications. Just two wounded people who had found solace in each other. The moment was interrupted by Maria's cell phone ringing. It was the alarm she set so she wouldn't be late. "I have to go. I have other rooms to clean." James nodded, returning Gabriel reluctantly. "Maria?" "Yes?" "Thanks for letting me tell you this, for not judging me." Maria smiled a genuine smile that lit up her face. "Thanks for trusting me." When Maria left the suite, James stood in the middle of the living room, feeling something he hadn't experienced in years. Hope. But in the hallway, Carla was waiting, strategically positioned near the service elevator. 45 minutes, she murmured to herself, timing how long Maria had spent in the suite. 45 minutes to clean a room. She smiled maliciously. She finally had something concrete to report to Mr. Henderson. The trap was closing, and Maria had no idea. The next morning, Maria noticed that something had changed at the hotel. Her colleague's look seemed more inquisitive. The conversation stopped when she passed, and Carla watched her with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Maria, my dear," Carla approached her in the locker room. "People are saying you're spending a lot of time on the 8th floor. I'm doing my job, Carla." "Of course you are, but 45 minutes in a suite, even a big one, that's a lot of time." Maria's blood ran cold. Carla had timed her. "Presidential suites require more care. You know that." "I know, yes. But I also know that rich guests sometimes offer extra opportunities for pretty employees." The insinuation was clear and offensive. Maria turned to face Carla. "I don't know what you're insinuating, but I don't like your tone." "Relax, Maria. I'm just giving you friendly advice. Be careful not to get involved in complicated situations." Maria left the locker room with a racing heart. Gabriel slept peacefully in the cart, oblivious to the tensions building around them. When she arrived at Suite 8001, she found James nervously pacing the living room. He looked like he hadn't slept well. "Good morning," Maria said, but she immediately realized something was wrong. "Maria, we need to talk." She stopped the cart at the door. "What happened?" "Last night I received a call. An acquaintance of mine heard my name on the hotel's guest list and commented on it to others. They are speculating about why I've been here for so long." Maria's stomach churned. "And what does that mean?" "It means that soon more people will start asking questions. And if they find out about Gabriel, about our daily meetings, it's going to be bad for you." Maria completed, lowering her eyes. "No, Maria, it's going to be bad for you. I can handle gossip. You could lose your job." Gabriel chose that moment to wake up, making his usual morning noises. Maria picked him up automatically, but James held out his arms. "May I?" As always, Gabriel calmed down in James's arms. But this time, Maria noticed something different in James's expression. A deep sadness mixed with determination. "James, what are you thinking?" He walked to the window, rocking Gabriel gently. "I'm thinking of leaving the hotel." The words hit Maria like a punch. She hadn't realized how much she had gotten used to those morning meetings, to seeing Gabriel happy in James's arms, to having someone to really talk to. "When?" "Tonight, maybe, or tomorrow morning." Maria approached, fighting against the feeling of loss that was growing in her chest. "Gabriel will miss you." James looked at her. "And you?" The question hung in the air. Maria found herself unable to answer because the answer scared her. Yes, she would miss him, much more than she should. "Why do you care so much about us?" she asked, instead of answering. James stopped rocking Gabriel and turned to her completely. "Because you gave me something back that I thought I had lost forever." "What?" "The ability to feel like I can make a difference in someone's life. The ability to feel," he hesitated, "to feel that maybe I deserve a second chance at being happy." Maria felt tears well up in her eyes. "James, when you arrived here that first morning with Gabriel in the cart, desperate, struggling alone, I saw myself reflected in you. Two wounded people trying to survive." Gabriel babbled happily, reaching out a little hand to touch James's face. The simple gesture made Maria's heart ache. "You don't have to leave," she said softly. "Maria, you don't understand. I'm not just any guest. I have a company, business, responsibilities that I abandoned to stay here. I can't run forever." "Then why are you running?" The question caught him off guard. James was silent for a long moment. "Because when Peter died, I couldn't see myself as someone capable of taking care of other people anymore. I canceled all my commitments. I sold shares in the company. I stayed away from everyone. And now? Now." He looked at Gabriel, then at Maria. "Now I want to try again. But I'm scared." Maria moved closer, gently touching his arm. "What are you afraid of? Failing again? Of not being able to protect you when you need it?" Maria pointed to Gabriel, who was completely relaxed in his arms, playing with one of the buttons on his shirt. "Do you think he doesn't feel protected?" James looked at the baby in his arms. Gabriel laughed that delicious and pure laugh, and James couldn't help but smile back. "Every morning he wakes up happy when you pick him up," Maria continued. "Every morning I see how natural you are with him, how you know exactly what to do." "And if it's not enough? And if it's more than enough?" They looked at each other in silence, Gabriel babbling happily between them. There was a growing intimacy in those moments, a connection that went far beyond the shared care for the baby. "Maria, can I ask you a personal question?" "Another one?" she joked, trying to lighten the mood. "Have you ever thought about trying again? A relationship? A real family for Gabriel?" Maria lowered her eyes. "After what happened with his father, I swore I would never depend on anyone again. Gabriel and I are enough for each other. What if someone came along who wanted to be a part of your lives? For real?" Maria felt her heart race. There was something in the way James asked the question. "It would depend on the person," she replied cautiously. "What kind of person would you let into your lives?" Maria looked at him directly. "Someone who would love Gabriel as if he were their own son. Someone who was willing to stay no matter what." James nodded slowly. "And if that person had a complicated past? Someone who made mistakes?" "We all make mistakes, James. What matters is what we do afterward." Gabriel began to get sleepy in James's arms, fighting against sleep. James rocked him with gentle movements, humming a melody Maria didn't recognize. "What song is that?" she asked. "Something my mother used to sing to me when I was little. I don't remember the lyrics, but the melody stayed." Maria watched James rocking her son and felt something moving in her chest. It wasn't just gratitude or friendship. It was something deeper, more frightening, more real. James. Yes? Don't leave yet. Please. He looked at her, surprised by the vulnerability in her voice. Why? Why? Maria struggled with the words. Because I also feel that maybe I deserve a second chance at being happy. The moment was interrupted by knocking on the door. Not the soft knocks of a maid, but firm, impatient knocks. Damn, Maria murmured, quickly taking Gabriel from James's arms. The bedroom. She ran to the bedroom again, but this time James followed her. No, he whispered. I won't hide you anymore. Maria, my job, she said. Trust me. The knocking repeated, more insistent. James walked to the door with firm steps. When he opened it, he found not only Mr. Henderson, but also Carla, with a triumphant smile on her lips. Mr. Miller, Henderson said, I have received information that there are inappropriate activities happening in your suite. I will need to inspect the place. James didn't move from the door. By what authority? As the manager of this hotel, I have the right to— Actually, you don't, James interrupted, his voice taking on a tone Maria had never heard. Authoritative, confident. As a paying guest, I have the right to privacy. Unless you have a judicial warrant or evidence of criminal activity, you cannot enter without my permission. Henderson was taken aback. He clearly didn't expect resistance. Mr. Miller, we are trying to protect both you and our employees. From what exactly? It was then that Carla decided to intervene. From inappropriate involvement with employees who bring babies to work. The silence that followed was tense. James looked directly at Carla, then at Henderson. I see. Well, in that case, I think you need to know who I really am. From the bedroom, Maria held her breath. What was James doing? My name is James Miller, and I am the CEO of Miller Holdings, a company that, coincidentally, owns 15% of the shares in this hotel chain. Henderson and Carla's expressions changed drastically. Now, James continued, let's talk about human resources policies and how this hotel treats employees in difficult situations. The silence in the hallway was deafening. Mr. Henderson had visibly paled, while Carla seemed to have lost all the confidence she had just seconds before. Mr. Miller, Henderson stammered. I didn't know you were— Was what? James interrupted, crossing his arms. One of the partial owners of this chain? Someone who has an active say in corporate policies? From the bedroom, Maria heard everything with a racing heart. Gabriel slept in her arms, oblivious to the drama unfolding. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. James was not just a rich man, he was practically their boss. Sir, there's been a misunderstanding, Henderson tried to explain. The employee has a name, Maria Sanchez, and you will treat her with the respect she deserves. Carla finally found her voice, but her arrogance had turned into desperation. Mr. Miller, I was just trying to protect the hotel's interests. A maid bringing babies to work is against the rules. And what exactly is the hotel's policy for employees with young children? James asked, his voice sharp. Henderson opened and closed his mouth several times. Well, we don't have a specific policy for— You don't have a maternity support policy? No corporate daycare? No nursery assistants? James shook his head in disapproval. That will change immediately. Maria heard footsteps approaching the bedroom door. It was James. Maria, you can come out. Please. With Gabriel in her arms, she emerged from the bedroom. Henderson and Carla stared at her with expressions of shock. Henderson, out of embarrassment. Carla, out of poorly disguised anger. Maria, James said softly, I'd like you to meet Mr. Henderson, the manager of this hotel. Mr. Henderson, this is Maria Sanchez, one of the most dedicated employees you have. Henderson stepped forward, clearly uncomfortable. Ms. Sanchez, I'd like to apologize for any misunderstanding. It wasn't a misunderstanding, James interrupted. It was discrimination. A hard-working single mother being persecuted for trying to balance motherhood with work. James turned to Carla, who was trying to shrink into the wall. And you, Carla. I was just trying to... Carla began. You were trying to harm a colleague out of envy or personal malice. James didn't let her finish, and that will also have consequences. Gabriel chose that moment to wake up, and seeing James, he held out his little arms toward him with a brilliant smile. Mama, the baby babbled, his first attempt at a word. James melted instantly, holding out his arms. Maria handed Gabriel over, and the baby laughed happily, playing with James's tie. The scene was so natural, so full of love, that even Henderson was moved. Mr. Miller, Henderson said cautiously, may I ask, what exactly is your relationship with Ms. Sanchez? James looked at Maria, then at Gabriel in his arms. Maria is special to me. She and Gabriel are very important. Maria's heart raced. The way James spoke, looking directly into her eyes, was important. How important? Carla couldn't help herself. James turned to her with an icy expression. Important enough that I am considering making significant changes in my life, including where I live, how I work, and with whom I build a future. His words hit Maria like lightning. He was talking about a future. With them? James, she whispered. He approached, Gabriel still in his arms. Maria, can I talk to you? In private? Henderson quickly withdrew, dragging Carla with him. Of course, Mr. Miller. Ms. Sanchez, consider the rest of the day paid time off. In fact, he stopped. Consider the rest of the week paid time off, while we review our policies. When they were finally alone, James walked to the sofa and sat down, positioning Gabriel on his lap so the baby could play with his fingers. Maria, sit down, please. She sat down next to him, still processing everything that had happened. You really own part of this hotel? She asked. 15% of the network's shares. I inherited them when my father died 5 years ago. I was never actively involved in the management because I always had my own business, but he smiled without humor. It seems I'll have to start paying more attention. Gabriel babbled happily, pulling on James's fingers. Why didn't you tell me? Maria asked. Because I didn't want it to change the way you saw me. We already had enough social differences between us. Maria lowered her eyes. And now? Now that everyone knows who you are. James stopped playing with Gabriel and turned to face her completely. Now, I want to stop hiding. Stop running. I want to try to build something real. With whom? With you. And with him. The statement hung in the air. Maria felt her heart beating so hard, she was sure James could hear it. James, you don't really know me. We've barely known each other for a week. I know enough. He held her hand. I know a courageous woman who fights alone to raise her son. I know someone who works honestly, who didn't judge me for my mistakes, who gave me a chance to redeem myself. Gabriel looked from one to the other, as if he felt the intensity of the moment. I know a kind man who treats my son as if he were his own flesh and blood, Maria said softly, who listens to me without judging, who carries deep pain, but can still be generous. Maria, yes, I'm in love with both of you. The words came out simple, honest, and direct. Maria felt tears form in her eyes. How can you be so sure so quickly? Because for the first time in 3 years, I wake up every day wanting to live. Because Gabriel gave me back the confidence that I can take care of someone without hurting them. Because when I look at you, I see not just a beautiful woman, but a partner. Someone I want to share not only the good times with, but also the difficulties. Gabriel began to get restless, signaling that he was hungry. Maria held out her arms, but James surprised her. "Can I give him his bottle?" Maria blinked in surprise. "You know how to do it?" "Peter taught me. Before the accident." Maria felt herself reaching for the bottle in the diaper bag she always carried on the cart. James held Gabrielle with one hand and the bottle with the other, and the baby immediately began to suck eagerly. "He trusts you completely," Maria observed. "And you? Do you trust me?" Maria watched him feeding her son with so much care and tenderness. "Yes," she whispered, "I do. Enough to let me be a part of your lives? For real?" Maria felt a tear roll down her face. "James, are you sure? I come with baggage. A baby, few resources, a complicated past." "Maria," he interrupted her gently. "Do you think I care about any of that? You should care. We are from very different worlds." "We're not. We are two people who were hurt, who learned to survive alone, and who now have the chance not to be alone anymore." Gabriel finished the bottle, and James placed him against his shoulder to burp him, making small circular movements on the baby's back. The gesture was so natural that Maria's heart ached. "What exactly are you proposing?" she asked. "I'm proposing that we leave this hotel together, that I rent a big apartment where you can stay while we decide what we want to do, that Gabriel has his own room, toys, everything a child deserves." "As charity?" Maria asked, tense. "As a family," James corrected her. "Maria, I want Gabriel to call me Dad. I want to teach him to walk, to talk, to ride a bicycle. I want to wake up in the middle of the night when he's sick. I want to argue with you about how to raise him. I want to worry when he starts dating." Maria laughed through her tears. "He's 8 months old, James. And I want to be present for every month to come." James leaned closer. "Maria, I love you. I love you, and I love Gabriel. I want to build a family with you." Gabriel burped loudly, making them both laugh. "I think he approves," Maria said, wiping her tears. "And you, do you approve?" Maria looked at James, then at Gabriel, who was falling asleep in his arms, then back at James. "I love you too," she whispered. James smiled, a smile that completely transformed his face. "Really?" "Really, but I'm scared." "Of what?" "Of waking up and finding out it's too good to be true." James held her hand with his free hand, Gabriel sleeping peacefully against his chest. "Then let's wake up together every day to make sure it's real." Maria leaned in, and for the first time, their lips met in a soft kiss, full of promises. Gabriel murmured something in his sleep, a small smile on his face, as if even in his dreams, he knew he finally had a complete family. "Ready to start our new life?" James asked. Maria looked around the luxurious suite, then at the man who had transformed her existence in just 1 week. "Ready!" 3 weeks had passed since that transformative morning in Suite 801. The apartment James had rented was bright and welcoming. A 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood, with a playground on the corner and a view that Maria had never imagined having. Gabriel now had his own room, painted in soft shades of green and yellow, with a mobile of stars that James had personally chosen. The baby had visibly grown in those weeks, more active, more cheerful, clearly flourishing in the environment of love and security. Maria woke up on a Saturday morning to the sound of laughter coming from the kitchen. She put on her bathrobe, a gift from James that still made her blush, and walked barefoot until she found a scene that warmed her heart every day. James was sitting on the kitchen floor in his pajamas, with Gabriel on his lap, trying to feed the baby fruit puree. Half the food was on Gabriel's face, a quarter on the floor, and the rest on James's clothes. "Come on, champion! Just one more spoonful!" James negotiated with Gabriel, who responded by clapping his hands and spreading even more puree. "How do you two manage to get so dirty during a simple meal?" Maria asked, laughing. James looked up, a huge smile on his face. "Good morning, love. Gabrielle was hungry and didn't want to wait for you to wake up." Maria approached and kissed Gabrielle's forehead first, then James's lips, a morning ritual that still gave her butterflies in her stomach. "And how was the negotiation?" she asked, taking Gabriel from James's arms to clean him up. "Difficult. He's becoming a tough negotiator. Clearly he takes after his mother." Maria laughed. "I'm not tough." "Of course not. That's why it took you 3 days to agree to let me buy a new bed for the room. It was an unnecessary expense." "Maria." James got up, approaching her. "We've already talked about this. It's not an expense. It's an investment in our family." The word family still made Maria's heart race. 3 weeks, and it still felt too surreal to be true. Gabriel babbled something that sounded suspiciously like "Papa," pointing at James. "Did you hear that?" James got excited instantly. "He said Papa!" "James, he's 9 months old. He's not really saying words yet." "He was." "Gabriel, say it again." "Papa! Papa!" Gabriel laughed and repeated himself. "Papa! Papa!" Maria felt tears form in her eyes. Maybe it wasn't a real word yet, but seeing James get so emotional, seeing how he gave himself completely to the role of father. "Okay, maybe he said Papa," she admitted. James pulled her into a hug. Gabriel squeezed happily between them. "Our family," James murmured. "Our real family." The moment was interrupted by the doorbell. Maria frowned. "Are we expecting someone?" James suddenly looked nervous. "Actually, yes. There's something I need to tell you." Maria looked at him, her heart racing. "What?" "My mother is coming for lunch with us." "Your what?" Maria almost dropped Gabriel. "My mother? You didn't tell me sooner. I'm not ready. The house is a mess. I'm in my bathrobe. Gabriel is dirty." "Maria, breathe." James held her shoulders. "She's going to love you, just as I love you." "What if she doesn't approve? What if she thinks I'm not good enough for you?" James kissed her gently. "Impossible, because you're perfect for me." The doorbell rang again. James sighed. "Can I get it? You get ready, bathe Gabriel, and I'll talk to her first." Maria nodded nervously. "Okay, but James," she said, "does she know about our story? How we met?" "She knows, and she knows you two saved my life." Maria ran to the bedroom, Gabriel in her arms. Through the door, she heard James opening the front door and a warm female voice. "My son, how are you?" "Hi, Mom. Come in, Tian, please. Where are they? Where is my grandson?" Maria stopped getting dressed. "My grandson?" Mrs. Thompson already considered Gabriel her grandson. 20 minutes later, Maria came out of the bedroom with Gabriel, clean and dressed in his most beautiful outfit. She had chosen a simple but elegant dress that James had bought for her. In the living room, she found James talking to a lady around 60, with well-kept gray hair and a gentle smile. Mrs. Thompson stood up immediately when she saw them. "Maria?" she exclaimed, approaching with open arms. "My dear girl." Maria let herself be hugged, surprised by the warm reception. "And this?" Mrs. Thompson said, holding out her arms for Gabriel. "He's my beautiful grandson." Gabriel, who was normally wary of new people, surprised everyone by smiling at Mrs. Thompson immediately. "He's perfect," she said, picking up Gabriel naturally. "Absolutely perfect. Look at those clever eyes." Maria looked at James, who was watching the scene with an emotional smile. "Mom," James said, "this is Maria, the woman I love. I know who she is. My son." Mrs. Thompson turned to Maria. "She's the woman who gave my son back to me." Maria was confused. "What do you mean?" "James was lost for 3 years, dear. Ever since the accident with little Peter, he was never the same. He stopped working properly, stayed away from everyone, lived tormented by guilt." Mrs. Thompson rocked Gabriel gently. "Until you and this little angel came into his life." "Mom," James murmured, embarrassed. "It's true, James. When you called me to tell me about Maria and Gabriel, it was the first time in 3 years that I heard joy in your voice." Maria felt her eyes well up. "Mrs. Thompson, you saved my son, Maria, who now gave me a beautiful grandson." Mrs. Thompson smiled. "So I don't want any formalities. I'm Eleanor to you, or Granny, if you prefer." Gabriel chose that moment to babble, "Granny," making Mrs. Thompson melt completely. "See? He's already called me Granny. This boy is a genius." James laughed. "Mom, he's not really talking words yet. He is. My grandson is gifted. And son." Maria found herself laughing, the tension finally dissolving. Mrs. Thompson had a contagious energy and had clearly adored Gabriel at first sight. Lunch was wonderful. Mrs. Thompson told stories from James's childhood, while Gabriel slept peacefully on her lap, completely at ease with his newly discovered grandmother. "Maria, can I talk to you seriously?" Mrs. Thompson asked when James went out to prepare coffee. Maria tensed. "Of course. My son went through a very difficult time after Peter's death. He blamed himself for something that wasn't his fault. It got to the point where I feared he would do something to himself." Maria felt a shiver. "Really? Really? That's why when he told me about you, about how Gabriel had touched him, about how kind you had been to him, I knew you were his salvation." "Mrs. Thompson, Eleanor, actually. It was the other way around. James saved us. You saved each other, dear. That's how the best love stories work." James came back with the coffee, interrupting the serious conversation. "What were you two talking about?" "How beautiful Gabriel is," Eleanor lied shamelessly, making Maria laugh. After lunch, while Gabriel played on the living room rug with new toys that Eleanor had brought, James and Maria accompanied her to the door. "Eleanor," Maria said, "thank you for welcoming me so well. I was nervous." "Nonsense, dear. You make my son happy. You love my grandson. You worked honestly to support your family. What more could a mother want?" She hugged Maria warmly. Then she turned to James. "My son, don't take too long to make this official, okay?" James blushed. "Mom, this girl deserves security, and Gabriel deserves to have your name. Get the papers." After Eleanor left, James and Maria stood in the living room, silently watching Gabriel play. "Your mom is amazing," Maria said finally. "She adored you, and she talked about making it official." Maria looked at him sideways. James got up, looking suddenly nervous. "Maria, actually, there's something I've been planning." He walked to the bedroom, returning with a small velvet box. Maria felt her heart stop. "James, Maria Sanchez," he said, kneeling in front of her. "You changed my life completely. You taught me that I could love without fear, care without guilt, dream about the future again." Gabriel stopped playing, as if he felt the importance of the moment. "Will you marry me? Will you build an official family with me? Will you let Gabriel have my last name and be my son in every way?" Maria was crying, her hands trembling. "James, I know it's early. I know we're still getting to know each other, But Maria, I'm absolutely sure I want to spend the rest of my life with you two. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will. James slid the ring, a simple and elegant solitaire, onto her finger. Then he kissed her with all the tenderness in the world. Gabriel clapped his hands, as if he understood that it was a moment of celebration. Gabriel approves, Maria laughed through her tears. Of course he does. Now he'll have a father and mother officially. James picked up Gabriel, and Maria snuggled up against the two of them. The Miller family, James murmured. The Miller family, Maria repeated, tasting how it sounded. Gabriel babbled something that definitely sounded like family, making the two adults laugh and cry at the same time. 6 months later, at a small ceremony in the park where Gabriel was taking his first steps, Maria Sanchez became Maria Miller. Gabriel, now over a year old, waddled down the makeshift aisle, going straight into the arms of James, his father in every way that mattered. Mrs. Thompson cried with emotion in the front row, next to Mrs. Evelyn, who had become part of the extended family. When the judge pronounced them husband and wife, Gabriel yelled, "Papa! Mama!" clearly for the first time, bringing laughter and tears to everyone present. That night, in the new house that James had bought, a real house with a backyard for Gabriel to play in, the Miller family was getting ready for bed. Gabriel was already sleeping in his crib, a peaceful smile on his face. Maria watched her son from the bedroom window, still wearing her simple wedding dress. "What are you thinking about, Mrs. Miller?" James asked, hugging her from behind. How life can change completely from one day to the next. Did it change for the better? Maria turned in his arms. It changed to perfect, even with all the challenges we still have to face, even knowing that raising Gabriel will be a great adventure. Especially because of that, Maria smiled. Because now we won't face anything alone. James kissed her softly. Never again alone. In the next room, Gabriel murmured in his sleep, "Papa, Mama, family." And for the first time in 3 years, James Miller fell asleep without nightmares, dreaming only of the bright future that awaited him beside the woman he loved, and the son who had chosen him to be his father. The humble maid who hid her baby in a cleaning cart never imagined that the mysterious man in the presidential suite would be her salvation. The businessman tormented by guilt never imagined that an 8-month-old baby would be his redemption. But sometimes, love arrives exactly when we least expect it, in the arms of people who need us just as much as we need them. And so, the Grandview Hotel lost an excellent maid, but the world gained a family that had found its second chance at being truly happy. Some stories begin with once upon a time. This story began with a baby's cry, and it ends, like all the best stories, with a family that chose to love each other forever. Your interactions are very important to us. Leave your name in the comments, and we can include it in one of our stories, with a special greeting just for you.